So we've all seen that high school movie where it's the nerds versus the jocks, or everyone's obsessed with sex, or it's a crazy psycho school and everyone's on drugs. But as far as I know, my high school was nothing like that. My high school didn't even have cliques. It just had groups of friends who, they were usually pretty inviting. I mean, there were those exclusive groups who pretended they were so cool, but every high school has those. Anyway, when we were all getting ready to graduate, something I noticed was everyone was really, really excited. I mean, graduation is a big deal, don't get me wrong, but weren't they a little sad to leave? Weren't they gonna miss high school and the people they'd spent so much time with? Like 4 years, not to mention I'd been going to school with some of these people since elementary school, since kindergarten. So I understand that, yeah, sometimes, some days, high school really sucks and you want it to end so bad. The immaturity, the bullying, but at the end of it all, I was really grateful for my entire experience there. I had made so many good friends, so many good memories, and I learned a lot. That's always a plus, right? So yeah, everyone at the end of my high school experience was saying, oh, high school sucks, getting out. But I think that I got a good experience out of it, and I'd like to share that with you, anyone watching, and hopefully help you if this advice helps at all. It worked for me, so I figured I might share what I did and see if it helps anyone else. So without further ado, I give you my first vlog, which is basically saying how to make the most out of high school. Or at least how I did. So, this is a new location. So I'm in a new location and it's daytime because I actually ended up running out of time when I was shooting all the introductory vlog stuff. So I'm gonna finish it here. Transitioning from middle school to high school didn't end up being a problem for me. The classes, they seemed, about the same level, maybe a little bit harder, but I could handle it. And I ended up getting into a group of friends right away. But as the year progressed, I found out my group was really exclusive, and there were a couple people I noticed who ended up being the leaders of the group, and they always controlled what we did, and people just wanted to talk to them. They didn't talk to each other than those, few people who were leaders. And some people do really well in groups, exclusive groups, or just groups of friends in general, but I found myself feeling a little unimportant or alienated, just kind of lonely, even when I was hanging out with the friend group. It's never like they did things and didn't invite me, it's just when they invited me and I was there, I didn't feel like it was worthwhile for me to be there. So even though I realized it wasn't really the thing for me, that group that I was in, a lot of my closest friends were part of it, and I stuck with it for over half the year and kind of restricted myself to those friends. I made a few friends in classes but didn't hang out with them. I really only hung out with that one group. But eventually I figured out that I'm not really the type of person who can be restricted to one friend group, and that's okay. So I stopped hanging out with that big group and started hanging out with the people that I wanted to become friends with and the people in the group who I already was friends with. And I realized that that choice made me a lot happier. And even though for a little bit after I stopped hanging out with the one group I felt a little lost, it was definitely worth it in the end. By the end of high school, I had 7 different best friends, and I loved them all. And they were part of their own groups, like 4 different groups, and then some of them didn't have groups like me, and it was really great. So that brings us to rule number 1. Don't be afraid to branch out. Meet new people, try new things, just overall don't get stuck in a rut, and if you do, figure out what got you in that rut and try to get yourself out of there. Another thing I wanted to add to rule number 1 is that there's always room for more friends. Even if you have the greatest best friend in the world, you can always have more. Alright, I've spent too much time on rule number 1 already. It's time for rule number 2. Get involved. While I was in high school, I was on the volleyball team, band, choir. I was involved in 4 different plays. I was in 3 different clubs and I was co-president of one of the clubs. I'm probably forgetting other things, but you get the picture. I was a very busy person. And most of the time, I loved it. That's why rule number 2 is get involved. Because it helps you meet so many different people and feel like you're involved in different things and doing things that are important. And it kind of takes your mind off the schoolwork. However, sometimes you can overdo it with the activities and overcommit yourself. And that's why rule number 3 is know your limit. Junior year was probably my busiest year because I was in the top band and choir, doing plays, still involved in the 3 or 4 clubs, and in the middle of the year, I got pneumonia and had to miss, I don't know, maybe a month of school. I don't really remember actually, but it was bad. Being involved in so many different things had been awesome and really fun, but I managed to overwork myself, and when I got sick, I couldn't attend any of those events that I'd worked towards or anything like that, and it was pretty difficult. So you should still get involved with clubs and sports and activities. Just know your limit. Know that you can't be president of everything, or you can't be involved in 10 different things, or it will bite you in the butt. And it's time for rule number 4. I'm sure most of you are already doing this, but get to know people in your classes. Not only is this helpful because you'll probably be seeing these people every day or every other day, but you can ask them for help on homework, study for tests together, and you'll probably remain friends after the class. Definitely not with everyone, but you'll make some good friends, and you'll be able to tell when it's a friendship that's worth going past the class and hanging out outside of it. Ooh, yay, that was a short one. Okay, so rule number 5 is get past your first impressions. First impressions can make you discount someone right away just because they were in a bad mood or they were having trouble that day. You really can't judge someone based on one interaction. Sometimes it's really hard to move past your first impressions, but trust me, I know from all this experience that some of my best friends, some of the first times we met, we don't remember each other too fondly. Rule number 6, don't get caught up in all the drama. This might just be a girl rule. I don't really know if guys have drama. Probably. I don't know. I'm sure you know of at least one person who's really attached to drama. Everything that upsets them, they make a gigantic deal out of it, and they kind of enjoy it. They kind of enjoy being upset. So if you know someone like that, you can still be friends with them. Just don't let them bog you down with everything that they're trying to make a bigger deal out of than it actually is. And sometimes you just have to wait for them to mature a little bit more. It just takes patience and understanding. Rule number 7 is balance your school, work, and social life. So these 3 things should all be pretty important to you. Unless you're too young to work or don't have a job, in which case it's probably a little bit easier because you only have to balance social and school. But the main point here is you shouldn't be working too hard and you shouldn't be having too much fun. I mean, you can never have too much fun, I suppose, but if your grades are failing, or if you got fired from work from skipping or something, you definitely need to reassess how you're balancing everything. Rule number 8, be aware of what you can and can't control. Now, if you're one of those people who worries about a lot of things, just try to think about the thing that you're worried about and ask yourself, can I control this? If it's a test that you've already taken and you're just freaking out about the grade, you've already done it. It's not really worth worrying about because you can't do anything about it now. If you're unhappy, sometimes you just have to look at what you can control and change what you can and just let the other things go. Rule number 9, consider getting a job. Now, this definitely isn't a rule for freshmen or even some sophomores in high school because agencies do want you to be a certain age so that they can hire you. And you should have a time to adjust if you're a freshman. You shouldn't be working right away unless you really need to or want to. But when you're a junior or a senior, a job is a really great learning experience. You get to meet people, see how being in the working industry works, and for me at least, it was just a really beneficial experience. I worked at a movie theater, and there were days when it was really hard, but then there were also days when it was really fun. It really adds a lot to your high school experience. Woo! Congratulations! You've stuck with me till rule number 10. And this one is simply, there are so many ways to have fun without drugs or alcohol. Now, I'm not gonna get all preachy here. I definitely had some friends in high school who went out on the weekends and partied, and that's fine for them, but it's really not all it's cracked up to be. And, in case you didn't know, it's illegal. I have had so much more fun staying in with friends than I ever did at a party where people were dulling their senses and messing up their bodies with drugs and alcohol. But I'll just leave that point with that, because if your teachers and your parents and your friends can't convince you, you're probably gonna do what you wanted to do. So, finally, my vlog number 1 is coming to a close, and that was probably a pretty long one. I felt like I did a lot of talking there. Hopefully in the future they'll be shorter, but good luck in high school, or if you've already been there, I hope you had a good time. But thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you soon. Sheepish Helpbot Vlogs. Well, anyway, I don't know what I'm saying. So without further ado, I give you my first video vlog. Haven't done one of these before. Obviously, that's why it's my first. Another thing I wanted to add to number 1 is that there's always room for more friends. You might have the greatest best friend in the world, but there's always room for you to make lesser friends. That sounds really bad. So that brings us to rule number 1.